we won't have income, and B, it's going to create an enormous amount of wealth, more wealth than has ever been seen in the history of human beings. And the wealth is going to be in the hands of those that they'll tell you that you can't lead until you're ready to give up control. It's not about you leading people, it's about people leading. We're going to have to give up control to automated systems, and hopefully we'll have created the guardrails long before we give up the control. But there's more than that, and that comes from this control and, if I will, humanization. It's not just a tool like digging a hole in the ground with a shovel. We went from throwing stones at each other to creating spears. And when the spears started flying, the other guys started developing. We've got ourselves in a place where we've amped it up so high that it could end all of our lives and all of our future lives. We're not going to be able to compete. We'll be Neanderthals against a superior race when it comes to that. If you don't even spend 5 minutes building. Don't spend $5 building. You have no clue. So few do this before they start building. Everybody wants to run out and build. Especially, oh my God, people that know how to code, that's what they want to do. And then they build stuff that nobody wants. If you build that into your product, you got a better chance, and you start to create a moat, a technological moat between you and your competitors. So there's so many reasons to do that. And after raising the $40 million and building this thing, they had that big launch party, and they launched, and the world went and just shrugged their shoulders. It was no big deal. And it was a crash and burn. $40 million.
In the heart of Southern California, where innovation meets ambition, every great idea needs a guide. Meet Michael Sawitz. He's more than a serial entrepreneur or an investor. He is a bridge for the next generation. From leading the Fast Start Studio to mentoring students in the classroom, Michael has spent a lifetime turning rough concepts into real companies. He builds ecosystems, he empowers founders, and he has dedicated his career to lifting others up so they can stand on their own. This is his story. This is Rise.
Just got to hang in there and never give up, never give in.
Exactly. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being here today. I always enjoy being with you. And I do recall back when we first met at Fast Start Studio back in 2013.
Yeah. You believe that?
I cannot believe it. Seriously, time flies by like crazy.
Yeah, I had dark hair back then.
Same here, actually, too. So I didn't have any of that. So, well, that's what the
hey,
world.
I earned every one of these hairs, every one of my gray hairs. I earned. I'm keeping them.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's what startup does to you, and this is actually when I kind of got myself into the whole startup world, and I want to learn so much from you today. And what I want to start off with is, there's so much going on right now when it comes to AI, and my first question to you is, what really excites you right now about AI, and what scares you, even a little?
That's a lot. And a lot of it is unknown, of course, and that tends to put me on edge. I'm a guy that likes to know stuff. Conversations we've had before is about singularity, technological singularity, and when that may happen and what the effect of that will be. Being, when do AI agents begin to think on their own and act on their own? This has been a question out there for quite a while, for dozens of years, from Ray Kurzweil, who said by 2050 we would hit technological singularity. And then there's folks like Elon Musk, who says it'll be in the next couple of years. I hope it's not in the next couple of years, because we're not ready for it. You know, we're doing wonderfully well, but the ability for AI to learn is so much faster than humans, and the ability to process is so much faster than humans, so that when we hit singularity, we won't be able to even understand what and why artificial intelligence is doing what it's doing. And that's called technological singularity. And people way smarter than me believe that when we hit technological singularity and all of our jobs are replaced, A, we won't have income, and B, it's going to create an enormous amount of wealth, more wealth than has ever been seen in the history of human beings. And the wealth is going to be in the hands of those that control the automation. They'll be running everything. And that in itself is not necessarily a bad thing if those who have the resources share them in a benevolent way and in a mutual beneficial way, or they keep it for themselves and create control. I mean, the history of human beings is, you know, ultimate power creates a real problem in most cases. And so I'm hoping that we as human beings have learned to deal with this power from making mistakes in our history, but you know, time will tell. So when we hit financial singularity, nobody's going to have a job, yet we all need to eat. We all need to pursue our passions, and hopefully that will occur at the same time or shortly after we lose our jobs through technological singularity. So anyhow, that's a bunch of answers or questions to your question.
Yeah. So do you think machines will take over, like what they keep speculating?
Yeah, I believe at some point there's so much that we do as human beings that can be done better by automated entities, you know, and these entities are going to be working at such a speed that and at such a depth of knowledge that we can't advise them. So at some point you got to let it go. I mean, if I get esoteric about it and you talk to people that are real leaders of human beings, they'll tell you that you can't lead until you're ready to give up control. It's not about you leading people, it's about people leading themselves. Once you've established a vision and areas of responsibility and direction and, you know, all kinds of other components, but you're not a leader until you can give up control. So if this is going to work, we're going to have to give up control to automated systems, and hopefully we'll have created the guardrails long before we give up the controls.
So do you think people actually, or most people, understand what AI is, or we're just reacting
No,
to the headlines?
no, there's not many human beings on the planet right now out of almost 8 billion of us that really understand AI. And if I could, it's on two different levels. There's one is if you're a technologist and you're building with AI, and you have to understand what those agents do, how they bring in information, how they parse that information, how they research that information, and how they put it together in some kind of relatable or reportable context. So guys and gals that do that no AI from a technology level, but there's more than that, and that comes from this control and, if I will, humanization. It's not just a tool like digging a hole in the ground with a shovel. Shovels aren't smart. They do what you make them do. With AI, it's about giving them context and rules. About 50, 60 years ago, Isaac Asimov wrote a story that became a movie. In fact, it's been done a couple of times, called I, Robot.
Yeah, I've seen
And
it.
it's where, robots and artificial intelligence were used in everyday occurrence, the same as I would use this pen, right? It's ubiquitous, is everywhere, and it's because there was this primary controls that was hardwired into all the robots, into their circuitry, that they will do no harm to human beings. And so with that, human beings were agreeable to give over control. But what happens when the owner, let's say, of a robot says that I want you to hurt me? And that's what happened in the story at end of life. Then when the pain of living was so bad, whether it's cancer or whatever, and you want to end things, and you want it to be done in the most expeditious way, ending your life in the way that you want it, and you ask a robot to do that to counter its prime directive. And that's what the story is about. And the robot is brought up on murder charges. And it's very interesting to the back and forth with the attorneys talking about what is sentient, what is true thought, and hopefully that exact thing won't happen, or if it does happen, let it happen early so we can deal with it and move on and build some kind of guardrails in, so that we have faith that we won't be hurt by our creations that have created other creations. Pretty esoteric stuff. You want to ask me an easier question,
Pretty deep.
please?
No, no, that's the beauty of it. We want to get deep into this because this is on a lot of people's minds and questions and
Yeah,
the
I'm
uncertainty
probably
about the
not.
future.
Yeah, I'm probably not the best guy to ask. As you can see, I look at it from non-technical eyes, as a human being, as an educator, as an advisor, as a father, as a grandfather. So for me, the lines are blurred because of what we do, right? And it's ever increasing and changing. We went from throwing stones at each other to creating spears. And when the spears started flying, the other guys started developing shields. And so instead of throwing spears, we created something that had a mechanical advantage, and that was a bow and arrow that could pierce that. And so there was armor. And so to counter the armor, more powerful bows and arrows and tips. All of a sudden, we went from the Bronze Age to brass, and then to steel and iron and then steel. So each time we created something more powerful, and the other guy did his thing, and back and forth until we get to nuclear fission, and we've got ourselves in a place where we've amped it up so high that it could end all of our lives and all of our future lives. So I see this. There's parable here with artificial intelligence, and I hope it doesn't amp up that way. But again, we're only human beings, and we've got these weaknesses that are sort of hard baked into our DNA. Can we overcome our challenges to destroy the other guy and take his chattel, take his lands, take his people, take his stuff? Can we go beyond that? I hope we do. For all of us.
So one of the questions that people are keep asking right now about creativity: will AI kill our creativity because we're just simply rely on it so much right now in almost everything?
Yep.
Writing, designing, building.
Yeah. That's another one of those hard questions. Thanks so much. Well, right now, for instance, I'm a writer. I write short stories, and Amazon and Kindle have got software to ascertain whether what you wrote was AI generated or AI assisted. And assisted, it's what I do. For instance, I just finished one murder mystery, and I'm on to another one. And in one of the scenes, there's it's in a FBI laboratory doing going through evidence of the crime scene, and I needed to know what the tools and what they're really called and what they can. So I used AI in this case to educate me as to what goes on possibly in an FBI crime evidence laboratory. And then I type that into my story. I'm not having AI write that chapter, because if I did, it'd be a violation of the Amazon rules, but I'd also be robbing myself of the joy and the creativity of taking something I learned and bringing into my story. So I tell you this because there's more at stake than just the output of creativity. There's the fact that through our creative endeavors, we enhance ourselves. We change ourselves, our own perspectives on ourselves and the world around us. And AI can't take that away. We can constantly and continually create for our own use, right? So, yeah, creativity, making a faster car, a rocket, laser, whatever, great. Let AI do that. They do it so much better. But that doesn't mean that we need to stop thinking about these things. It just means the technological stuff, we're not going to be able to compete. We'll be Neanderthals against a superior race when it comes to that. But when it comes to music or painting or writing, we hold our own unique human viewpoint. And I don't think we'll lose that. I hope we don't lose that, because that's part of our humanity. And we go back 5,000, 7,000 years with cave paintings and telling the story of what was going on there. That's creativity. And it was something that was done so it could be shared and learned. So when it comes to answering a question, is I don't think human beings will lose their creativity to automated systems. No matter how creative automated systems are, there's something truly unique about human psyche and how it comes out through the creative process, hopefully.
Yeah. So now, when it comes to starting a company today, do you think, or actually, let me ask it this way: what would AI change on day one if you're starting your own company?
So I use a company that I'm an advisor for right now. In January, when I got involved with them, they were writing a very complex workflow from lead gen to making all the data and information to make a sale, to create all the contracts for the back end office, and funding, and just a seamless entire workflow, taking into effect several AI agents to do different things that were all integrated. And it was heavy lifting, and they did a marvelous job. And right from the beginning, from the first test, using the same spending, the same budget every month on the same platform, not changing the platform, going to a different media, but using AI to sharpen the message, they got 3 times more leads. By using agents to process and help in making the sale, they got 3 times more contracts in the same amount of time. So what they built works and was very hard to do, and they did some groundbreaking stuff on it. And again, that went from January to May is when we started using this workflow. So it took them 4 months to do this. Now there are agents that specialize in streamlining workflow. Now, we haven't used it to see if that's better than what we built, because we don't want to, waste the time. We got something that's working, and we're in beta testing now, so it just isn't the in-house tests. It's outside users, and if they get the same kind of lift, then we've got something. If we can offer a streamlined workflow that gives you 3 times the amount of leads, 3 times the amount of deals, and what we were doing was generating $8 to $10 million a month, and now we've got a backlog of $40 million worth of contracts that we got to find funding for. So that's a whole different issue, but we know it works, and now we're using it with others so we can gauge whether it'll work for someone who isn't part of the company and has their own way of doing business. Can this integrate with anybody's system doing the same thing that we're doing in real estate?
Got it. So you mentioned about cost. So you would say that AI lowers the cost of building?
Well, yes. One is time. All right. So if you're paying people that are doing coding, and people that are doing UX UI, and people that are doing testing and quality assurance, and instead of taking 2 or 3 years, it takes weeks to do the same thing. Yeah, it's a huge savings. Plus the fact, I read something recently that in the last 12 months, the actual cost of using AI, depending on what platform you use, has gone down 24x. I mean, that's huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So given that now AI is making things more convenient for startups to build, but that also would allow the competition to really increase. So in that case, how would we navigate that?
So it still comes down to the basics, and here's where the human part comes again. I mean, that's lean, and lean startup is part of my DNA. I thought I had it going and being in business for 50 years, but when I found lean, it changed everything for me. In fact, I even was invited a couple of times to Eric Ries's Lean Startup Conferences in San Francisco, and was a mentor there for dozens of startups. It it's a great way to solve problems, but it's an even better way to identify who your customer is and what you should be building or shouldn't be building. And that still at this point takes a human being to do the customer development, the critical thinking, and the decisions there of what to build, how to build it, what should it look like, to be able to feed the automated systems to do a better job. But right now, they can't tell you. They can't go out and do the interview. The long interview that is, to me, is where the rubber meets the road. It's where one human being is talking to another human being in such a way that the second human being is giving up this information of not, would you buy my product, but did you ever have this problem? And when was the last time you had this problem? And when you had that problem, how did you solve it? What did you use? Okay. And why did you choose that? And how did it work for you? And they may say, oh yeah, I used XYZ. And you might say, terrific, it's a great company. But tell me, if we rated what XYZ did for you, from 1 being it didn't work to 10 being it worked flawlessly, what do you think you would give it as a grade based on your experience? And they'll say, well, Michael, it did what I wanted it to do. And I say, that's terrific. But did it give you everything? Well, it gave me what I needed. Well, what else may it have given you that would be more complete or made it easier, that you didn't have to go get another tool? Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Now, holding that in your mind, give me that grade again, 1 to 10. Well, it did pretty good, so I'll give it a 7.5 or an 8. I go, great. That's a good number. But tell me, what would it take to go from a 7.5 to a 10? What was it missing? And then that little piece of information gives you exactly what you need to build. Now, when you hear that from one person, you need the light goes on, but not to telegraph it. Use good methodology. And now you go out and do dozens more interviews. And if you keep hearing the same thing, you don't have to do 100 of them. But if you hear a bunch of different things, you probably have to do 100. And then parse that information as to exactly what does it take to solve that problem in a way that hasn't been done. Now you've got something. Give me a problem that a lot of people have, that I can create a solution that is more elegant, is more satisfactory, successful than anybody else. And if it's a big enough market, now that's something that I can raise money to build and get to a marketplace and have a customer base. Simple. A machine can't do that right now.
This is beautiful. So it's all about, comes down to asking a lot of questions and good questions, right?
Yeah, it's about a lot of questions, but not too many questions that you wear people out. Because, if you do it right, this long interview is about 10 questions. Now you got the follow-on questions, because the thing is, people want to give you something that they think you want to hear. So they'll change things, they'll even lie. Not lie to lie, but lie to give you what you want. So if you're telegraphing people of what you want, you've already tainted the information you're getting. So you have to use really good methodology for the long interviews. And one of the tools is the 5 whys. So when I ask you, why did you do that? Okay. Why did you use that? And I ask you a similar type question, going deeper and deeper. Psychologists tell us people can't consistently lie 5 times in a row, right? So I'm not saying lying to be mean or throw you off the trail, but it's human. You got to get the human foible out of the way. So it's peeling back the onion, go deeper at least 5 different levels, and you'll get to the truth.
So, and
So
you think
it's
this?
methodology.
Got it. So, and you think that would be the best strategy for first-time founders to really stand out, to be able
Have
to
to. If you don't even spend
bother?
5 minutes building. Don't spend $5 building. You have no clue. And the thing is, I've worked with thousands of startups, either on campus or at Fast Start or TCVN or the other groups that I belong to. So few do this before they start building. Everybody wants to run out and build, especially, oh my God, people that know how to code. That's what they want to do. And then they build stuff that nobody wants or build stuff that doesn't work for the purpose intended because they were building in a vacuum over and over and over again. The same problem, right? The same problem with the same results. You got to do this to find out, is it a serious enough problem? It's sort of a problem market fit before you have product market fit, right? You have to sort of uncover these things. And what you do is you create a grid, an analysis. Let's say you did 100 interviews and you laid them out in a spreadsheet. And question number 1, whatever question number 1 is, you parse the answers, both male and female, and then maybe male and female for age banding. So 18 to 25, or 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44, and so forth. You may break it down into education or earnings, or you create this matrix and then start putting numbers in. And then you start to study it and you go, wow. It said here that 50% of my interviews said yes, that was a problem. If I get 50 people, 50%, I'm not going to build it. But when I delved down into it, and I found that females between 35 and 44, 92% of that group wanted it. Bingo. Now I need to know that with my UX UI, everything has got to fit that primary customer. And then I try to find where my secondary and tertiary customers are so I can build for them. But, if on the other side, when you see 15%, 8%, I don't want to build anything where that's the size of the marketplace, right? So now I know where the meat is. Now I want to quickly put together an MVP, minimum viable, right? So those 2 words get forgotten. So many people go out and they code, so they feel they code like they're coding the final product. No, not at all. It's the smallest thing that represents the core of what we're trying to build, to get it out there in front of people so they can go, or, yeah, when can I have that? right? I've seen brilliant founders use a big flip chart, right? Just paper. And on the paper is driven, is a cell phone. And here's a cell phone, and they say, okay, based on what you see, what would be your first button you'd push? Boom. So they record, they write that down. They flip it. Okay, this is your next screen. What are you going to do? And they'll try to see if the flow is right, if it's easy to understand, then you're removing a barrier to using it. And the guy that I interviewed at SoCal Startup Day, if you remember, David Perry, so successful in all of his companies. He's the one that coined, for me anyhow, the word frictionless. That everything he does, at every touch, his products, his games, his whatever he's building with the customer, whether it's B2C, B2B, that he was removing the obstacles for them to use it, to make it so intuitive. The guys that figured that out was Steve Jobs and the Kelly brothers, who did all the UX UI for most of the Apple products, to remove the barriers, make it so intuitive you know what the next thing should be without thinking about it. So if you build that into your product, you got a better chance, and you start to create a moat, a technological moat between you and your competitors. So there's so many reasons to do that. So I've seen people where they actually did a 3D printed product that doesn't work. It looks like it, right? And so here's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. They give it to somebody and they watch how they mess with it, and then they flip a switch or push a button, and you go, nice. This is what happens when you do that. You hand them the second thing and watch what they do. That kind of process, that design engagement and the critical thinking, is what it takes to build any product or service. Same way, same thing, because it's a human being reacting, right? It's not a machine reacting to something a human built. It's a human reacting. And as long as we got humans reacting, we got a chance of figuring it out.
So for me as a founder, and I love building, like what you said. I mean, I've been doing it, and there was a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of times I had to really completely move away from what I was trying to build to completely something different based on the market. But in today's world right now, sometimes founders need to rush things, because if they cannot deliver very quickly, somebody else will.
So you're going to deliver something that is half-assed, that doesn't work? No. So there's your answer right there. It doesn't matter what the other guys are doing. I mean, there's Coke and Pepsi and hundreds of other soft drinks, right? So any market that's worth going in is going to have competition. When you have no competition, you have no marketplace. So why even do it in the first place? Right? So don't worry what the other guy's doing. You do something unique, something that people relate to.
Does it have to be like really unique, like that has never been done before, or can it have its own twist?
It is not never been done before. It's doing it better than anybody else has. So when I first got involved with Cal State Fullerton, I became an EIR in the classroom. on Thursday nights with Professor John Jackson, and he became the director for the Center for Entrepreneurship at Cal State Fullerton, of which I'm proud to be a board member there. But at this time that I'm going to tell you, I wasn't on the board, and he wrote a book called Good, Better, Best. And in there, it's from the marketing perspective. Do you want to be good? You want to be better? You want to be best? And what does that take? And that sort of enlightened me to where I found a guy named Jeffrey Gitomer, Gitmor. So Jeffrey Gitomer is a sales guy, and he wrote a bunch of books. And they're little books. The Little Red Book of Selling, I was so enamored with, I would buy a copy and give it to every one of my franchisees and every one of my employees, because I wanted them to know how it all works. You know, Gitomer said some really profound stuff that resonated with me. He said, no one wants to be sold, right? It's pretty simple stuff. And the thing is, even when somebody's smiling, you can tell if they're trying to sell you or not. There's a part of your brain, and it's the oldest part of the human brain, called the amygdala. And in part of the instincts that we have as human beings lie in the amygdala. In fact, the fight or flight reflex is in the amygdala. So in the amygdala, we know if somebody's trying to get over on us, trying to sell us an idea, a product, whatever. They want something from us, and we know right away. And we feel, I'm out of here, or yeah, that sounds pretty good. But we know right away. So we hold that thought for a minute, that no one wants to be sold. Gitomer, on the other hand, says everyone wants to buy. When there's stuff that you want, nothing's going to keep you from buying it. Whatever it is, you fixate on it. You know, if it's a motorcycle, a Mustang, a pair of Jimmy Choo $2,000 shoes, whatever it is, that's all you can think about. And you find a way to get it, right? She might go, and I know this sounds sexist, but she might go without lunches for months to save money to buy what she wants. A guy stops going out and spending money with his buddies so he can save money to buy the new golf clubs or whatever. The thing is, when we fixate on stuff, nothing can stop us. And the thing is, whether we want to buy or somebody wants to sell us something, it's exactly the same. It's transactional. So why is one something we run from and one something we run to? And you can't stop us, right? When you figure that out, now you've built the better mousetrap. Now you've built the better product that everybody's going to come to you, and they're going to stop using what they're using. Well, Michael, yeah, it worked well. It was a 7.5 or an 8. No, I'm going to give you a 10. And you're automatically, as soon as you find there's a 10, you're going to stop using the 7.5 and you're going to go to the 10. Isn't that the way it works? Right? So that's what you want to build. You want to find out what it takes to build a 10. And then only do that. Don't waste your time on anything else. You know, that was how Eric Ries really got into trouble and created the Lean Startup. He and his buddies at Stanford were building stuff that nobody had built before because they were brilliant and because they'd raised $40 million as a startup. They could keep programming, keep building. They built and built and built. And the investors went, this is great stuff. Shh, don't tell anybody. keep it under wraps. So when we have a launch party, it's going to be something like the world has never seen before. And after raising the $40 million and building this thing, they had that big launch party and they launched, and the world went and just shrugged their shoulders. It was no big deal. And it was a crash and burn. $40 million lost. So he closed it all down. And about a year later, he's on a run through the Palo Alto hills. And he realizes, what we're building was the right thing. The way we went about it in stealth was the wrong way. And I'm going to prove this. So he sent messages out to people who had bought the product and asked them questions. And they went, okay, and they answered it. And he wasn't seeing anything that he could work on. And just, it was frightening. So we finally said, I'm not going to do this by email, and I'm going to do this in person. So he started inviting people to their old office that he still had control of for a couple of months, and said, hey, thanks for using our product, blah, 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 blah. You were one of the early users. I see that you were using it. Did you tell many of your friends about it? No, not really. Well, it was a great value. We kept pushing out updates to you guys and not charging them. In fact, they were coming out, a couple of times a week, new stuff. And he knew that their adoption rate went flat. It didn't matter that they're pushing out new stuff. He was just trying to find out why. And people, yeah, I know. There was nothing there. And he asked enough people and started to use good technique that he found out they bought the app, the program, because of what it did initially. And all the other stuff, the really hard, coding stuff that got added on, wasn't what people wanted. The people bought it to solve a problem. All that other stuff didn't help solve a problem. And so they weren't excited about it. They didn't tell more people. And this time he thought, I'm going to do it differently. And he did do it again. He got his co-founder. He brought in the same coders, their guys they went to Stanford with, because they all got paid. $40 million went to a lot of coders. So this time they built something smaller. And they watched and they tested, and they only built stuff that they could verify that people wanted. And now he had a success. I mean, it's real simple. Build stuff that people want. Don't sell to people. Build what people want.
What a story.
Easy to
What a
say,
story.
not so easy to do.
Yeah. So speaking of investors, and you mentioned that the investors invested $40 million on a product, but how were they? I mean, how did they get convinced to put in that amount of money in something that hasn't been verified or tested? I mean, let's take this as an opportunity to shift a little bit into the investors' world and their mind and how they think about investing in startups and companies. Given today, right now, I mean, how do you think investors are looking at startups, especially with this schema of AI? And are they just simply chasing startups because of AI?
I mean, the story I told you was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 16 years ago. So Investors are much smarter now. Um, I'm part of Alumni Ventures, and we've got 40 analysts. That's all they do is analyze startups and markets to try to find ones that have the staying power, have a team that can deal with failure and quickly mitigate that failure and make the right kind of moves. Marketplaces that are sustainable, competitive landscapes where there's a chance and where the CAC, the cost to acquire a customer, is reasonable. There's all kinds of ratings and scaling systems that VCs use to determine whether a company is worth investing in. So yeah, they're much more sophisticated, and a lot of them have moved downstream where they're no longer seed or early stage. They're going to go. A lot of investor money won't go in until you can prove you could scale, right? And you get worse valuation, but you get much more security. So a lot of investors just move downstream. And then there's the economics of it, is that in the beginning, VCs were happy if they got 1 in 100 that worked. It made all the rest whole and made them money. They're looking for better numbers now, and they're tougher, and they've learned from their mistakes. So it is a more difficult game, though. It's like anything else. When you build, you're looking for the right customer, your primary customer, your secondary customer. When it comes to raising money, you have to use the same techniques, the same mentality to find the right kind of investors, because you're going to be with that investor for a long time. In the VC world, they look at a 7 to 10 year horizon. They may give you the money today or give you the money after you've been in it 2 or 3 years and you can prove you can build customers. But they know it's going to take 7 or 10 years before you're ready for an exit that they believe is worthwhile. So you're going to be with an investor for a long time. If you pick poorly and you've married yourself to a psycho, you're going to have that psycho as a partner for a long time. Right? So especially early stage, it's not as much the money, though we all think we need the money. It's about somebody who shares the vision, somebody who has got a strong network and can pick up the phone or send a email or text and bring resources in, people that can help you, people that can open doors, bring in your first major customers. That's worth more than the money. So it depends on what you're doing, but I would be as serious about doing research on my investors as I would on my customer base.
But now, for me, as someone who's trying to prove the concept or the product or the customer base, well, I need money. So how can I sustain myself? How can I sustain my company to keep it going until I can prove to the VC or the angel investor or whatever that, hey, my company or my product is worthwhile?
Right. So angel investors don't typically have analysts unless they join angel groups, and most angel investors don't. So angel investors are more about you and your passion than they are long-term what my return is going to be. So the easier money is usually friends and family because they know you. The second easiest are angel investors. You need to talk to a lot of them. I know what I'm doing. I taught how to pitch every Tuesday night for 8 years at Fast Start, and it worked because a lot of those guys raised money. So I know what I'm doing. And when I joined a medical device company and became a co-founder, I was the guy that was going to go pitch for us. And I put my deck together and I did my research, and because it was a medical device, I went after doctors, thinking doctors would understand what I'm trying to do saves doctors' lives, because it had to do with fluoroscopy and radiation from x-rays, and doctors that have their hands in it on the operating table and what was happening. So I went to doctors that were investors, and I did over 40 presentations and didn't raise a dime, but every time they had questions, I wrote those questions down to remember those questions, and I built them into my deck so that that question wouldn't come up again. They would see it. And then I wound up pitching it to the Cove Fund. You know the Cove Fund at UCI? So I pitched it to Cove 2, and I asked for $450,000 so I could do my 510K FDA approval. Once I had the 510K, I had one of the biggest medical device companies in the world say that they wanted to be our sole distributor, but I had to get through the 510K first. So I had something legally I could sell. So I knew I had millions waiting for me if I could get it. So I needed the $450,000. So after I pitched it, I went outside, and there were 20 of them. They talked, and my interface, the guy that I went through to get into the process, first a committee of 3 people, and if they liked it, then I got to pitch to all of them. He came out and he said, well, there were 20 and you got 20 yeses, no nos, and we want to fund it. I was so happy. He says, and we want to give you $1 million. I said, I asked for 450. They said, we know you asked for 450, but we also know once you spend the 450,000, there's going to be a time you need to get into production before your distribution deal can kick in, and you're going to go out and raise money again, and we don't want to be crammed down when you go for your next raise, so we'll give it to you now because we're getting a better valuation. So similar, my next one was a private group. There were more than 25 of them, and I got introduced to the head guy, had lunch with him, talked to him. They were interested, kept talking, and never showed him a deck. And he said, I'd like you to meet with some of my group. And these were people that there's a realtor, there was a guy that owned a automobile towing service, there's a guy that owned a bunch of liquor stores, just all kinds of successful business people. And I talked with them, and they went and talked amongst themselves, and I guess they had a meeting with the rest of them. And on that particular one, I wanted $750,000. And Morgan, the head guy, said, we want to go with you. And I was happy. He said, the checks will be coming in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll sign the documents. So I was a happy guy and reported back, obviously, to my partners, my co-founders, that we were raising $750,000. And a few days later, Morgan gets a hold of me and he said, well, I got an issue. more of our members of our investment group want to go in than I thought. So I'm oversubscribed. I know you wanted 750,000. Would you take 800? I got two more that want to put up 25,000 each. Can I please bring them in? And I said, yeah. Our same valuation. You just buy yourself a little bit more points. And they did that and did that again to where we had over $900,000. And I'm like, holy cow. And the last one was really weird. He said, I got a guy. He does primarily, his business is mainly in cash. So he'd like to bring his $25,000 in cash. Would you accept that? Holy cow. So I said yes. So I set it up, and they brought over, I swear, a brown paper bag with $100 bills banded in it. And I asked our accountant to come and sit there, and we counted out on the table $25,000 in cash, wrote a receipt for it, and then we stuck it in the bank, which of course the IRS wanted to know where this $25,000 came from, because it's part of the financial controls to make sure you're not laundering money. And so we had to tell who gave it and so forth. So it was all legal, but raised $900,000. And we then ran into COVID, the beginning of COVID, and knew it was going to be tough. So I went back to them and I said, we haven't spent all your money. So I'm not here saying that we spent your $900,000. We spent some of it, and we've made great progress. We now have almost $200,000 worth of product, but don't know how long this lockdown is going to happen, and don't want to put everything at risk. I think it would be wise if we had a backup plan. And he says, what do you think your backup plan is? And I said, well, at least another $400,000 to get us through whatever time it is until the country, gets out of this thing. So they came back and they brought another 400,000. Of course, this time it cost me more because the valuation was different. They got a better deal for the 400 than they did the 900. But we had the money in the bank to get through COVID. So I tell you this long story because it wasn't about them doing analysis about market share, competition, and so forth. It's that they believed in what we were doing. And as business people, they could see the merit. And that's where they came in. I don't think a VC or a private equity fund would have given us $1 more.
So you're saying basically we should pursue angel investors as the first option and not try to jump straight into VCs because of the
right. And the thing is, VCs want to know where you got your initial money. And so if you say all our money is through Uncle Bob and Aunt Martha, friends and family, that doesn't mean too much. But if you get money from TCA or Pasadena Angels or some other group.
One of the things that really I wasn't sure about, angel investor route first or just VCs first, because the notion about angel investors that the money is not as much. A lot of them cut down small checks versus VC. Sometimes you can get a bigger lump sum, but the thing is, I know it's a longer process. It takes a while to be able to convince.
Less than 1% ever get VC money.
Wow.
So yeah, the odds there are not good. So, be smart. And today, in today's marketplace, like Techos Angels will do a $1 million. Um, if you need $1 million, what they do is they go out and syndicate it. They get other angel groups like Pasadena Angels, or there's an angel group on the East Coast they do a lot of syndication with as well. And they'll put it together if they believe in it. If they want in, and they want in for 500,000, they'll go out. They'll be the lead investor. They'll go out and get it for you.
I see. How can I get in? What would be my first step
Well,
to get into?
if you want to see what criteria is, you can go on Techos Angels website, and they've got their application form. I'd go on other places as well, and look what their applications are and what the processes is. Use AI for that. Tell AI, I want to know all of the angel groups currently active in early stage funding in Southern California or the Western 11 states, whatever. Then start to study and go, which ones typically invest in product, which ones invest in service, which ones love certain technology. And that's what you want to do to go smarter and use artificial intelligence to help you do the research on that very quickly. Then you go out, and then the next thing you want to do is find somebody that knows somebody, right? What you want is not just to send them an application. What you want is an introduction. And if you believe in 6 degrees of separation, that there's only 6 jumps between you and every other person on this planet, that's what you do. You use LinkedIn, you use your network to say, hey, here's these 20 people in Scottsdale that invest and have invested in things like what I'm building. I need to find somebody that knows them. And you start to look at their primary, their secondary on LinkedIn to find somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that'll help you get an introduction. That can say, hey, I know you guys invest in such and such. I know these guys. What they're doing is something different. I think you should learn about this. And there's more to it, more than I can give you at this stage. I'm happy to come back and talk to you specifically on how you approach investors. That's a whole another podcast. Is that fair enough?
Yep. Well, Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. That was fascinating.
Yes, sir. Always great
you.
to talk to you.
Same here.
Going back to our very first conversation many years ago.
Many years ago. Exactly.
All right.